Hey everyone, my name is Marshall Mind and this is going to be part 5 of my EA Sports UFC Strike and Ideas videos, and in this one I'll be talking about movement, and that includes side steps, lunges, and how fighters move around in the cage. When you watch MMA and you look at how the fighters perform, you'll notice that there's a huge emphasis on movement. Whether it's for defense, offense, or just keeping your opponent guessing, effective movement is very important. It's your very first line of defense. When you see a strike coming, most fighters move out of the way before they even think about blocking. If they also want to set up counter shots, they usually use effective movements to get into the right distance and land their counter. So overall, effective movement is very important, and that's why I am talking about this in this video. When you play EA Sports UFC, as well as the other fighting games out there that has been made, you'll notice that the movement wasn't done correctly. In UFC 3, it was incredibly underpowered and not effective at all. In Fight Night Champion, the side steps were overpowered and abused. And in EA Sports UFC, the side steps were also overpowered before this last patch that sort of nerfed it a little bit. So what can EA do to make sure that the movement in their next game is very effective but not overpowered? Well, they should ask themselves, how does side steps, lunges, and overall movement actually work in real life? Well, let's look at Conor McGregor, the self-proclaimed movement master, and see what he does. First of all, let's look at the effectiveness of his movement. When you look at the way Conor McGregor moves, the way he sidesteps, lunges forward, or backsteps, the one thing you'll notice is that he has full control of his body. I know, that probably made you go, duh, he has full control of his body, but follow me here. When Conor McGregor lunges in whatever direction it is he wants to lunge or sidestep to, it's not like a fixed animation that has to play out completely before he can do anything else. He can interrupt his lunge animation, so to speak, at any time he wants to. He can interrupt it halfway and land a counter. He can interrupt it halfway and block. He can lunge fully and completely to get out of the way of a strike. He can stop that lunge at any time he feels like it, and that's what allows him to always remain at the right distance. Now, compare that to EA Sports UFC. Can you interrupt a sidestep or a lunge at any stage of the animation? No, you can't. If you flick the left stick on your controller and your fighter lunges, you have to sit there and wait for the whole animation to play out completely before you can land a counter. It's the same problem we have with the sways in the game. It's all a fixed animation that has to play out completely before you can do anything. The same thing with the strikes. This is exactly why we can't use feints, why we can't fake takedowns, why we can't fake clinch attempts, why we can't fake anything on the feet. Because every single thing is a fixed animation that has to play out completely before you can do anything. It's unrealistic and it needs to change. Give us the ability to interrupt side steps and lunges at any stage of the animation. Give us the ability to interrupt sways at any stage of the animation. And give us the ability to interrupt strikes at any stage of the animation as well, and this includes takedowns. This way, players can have full control of their fighters. Defensive players can use side steps effectively and also counter more effectively. Add that to the fact that every single strike will have an effect and will be able to move like Conor McGregor in the game and catch aggressive players with beautiful counters like he does. So, that's how you can make side steps and lunges more effective for defense and countering. Now you could be wondering, yeah, that sounds good in theory, but how could that be done on the controller? How could you do that with the controller? Honestly, I think it's a very simple solution. To interrupt side steps, back steps, lunges, or sways, simply input another command and that will interrupt the step or lunge or sway. So, if I sidestep and want to counter before the whole sidestep animation plays out, I'll just have to input a strike command while the animation is playing, and that will interrupt it and play the strike animation. Same thing with the sways. I should be able to interrupt sidesteps with sways. So if I sidestep and I see a strike coming, I can sway in the middle of the sidestep, interrupt it, and avoid the strike. Better yet, just give us Fight Night style bobbing and weaving so that we can have full control of the sways. For strike cancels, they can do it like UFC 3 did it. Use the block button as the cancel. If I throw a head kick and want to cancel it halfway through the animation, I should hold block and that will cancel the strike halfway. This way, players can create complex feints, confuse our opponents, and create openings to land strikes. So that's how that could be done. Now, let's talk about how to make sure that it's not overpowered. And honestly, with the latest patch that we got from EA Sports UFC, they did a great job when it comes to lunging. Now, when someone is lunging like crazy in the game right now, you can hit them with a strike, stop them in their tracks, and control them. And I am absolutely grateful for that. That tells me that the developers are headed in the right direction. But my problem with that is that any strike at all can halt them. And even though this is realistic to an extent, I'd like to see a situation where strikes in whatever direction they're stepping to does more damage because they're stepping into it. If you watch the fight with Anthony Johnson and Gustafsson, I meant to say, at one point in the fight, Gustafsson was trying to circle to his right away from Anthony Johnson. And seeing what he was trying to do, Anthony Johnson hit him with a left head kick, which had a very clear effect and prevented him from circling successfully. So I would like to see something like this added to the game. If someone is sidestepping a lot, I want to be able to time a strike in the direction they're stepping to and do some damage. Same thing applies to lunging forward with strikes. We've seen fighters like Ryan Bader get knocked out cold after getting caught with a strike as he lunged forward. This will create a risk and a reward for every action that you perform in the game. If this is done correctly, sidestepping and overall movements will be very, very effective, but when overdone and done mindlessly, it could cause major damage to the fighter. So players will have to use every weapon they have in a smart and calculated way. One last thing. In EA Sports UFC, it seems that fighters move backwards just as fast, if not faster, than fighters moving forward. This is very wrong and really not realistic. The fighter that is moving forward should have an advantage when it comes to movement speed. If fighters want to be elusive and maintain a good distance between their opponents, then they should do that by countering effectively, lunging and stepping effectively, and using long-range strikes designed to keep opponents at distance, like jabs, oblique kicks, front leg side kicks to the body, and teep kicks. This way, there will be a balance between offense and defense, and neither will be too strong. A good defensive player will be able to keep players at distance, and a good offensive player will be able to close that distance and do damage without taking much damage himself. So, to review, we need to have a more effective movement system when it comes to countering. And to do this, we need to have the ability to interrupt sidesteps, sways, and lunges, and to make sure it's not overpowered, strikes landed while opponents are sidestepping, especially strikes landed in the direction they're stepping to, should do more damage. And lastly, a fighter's speed while moving backwards should not be the same as the fighter's speed while moving forward. The fighter that is moving forward should have the edge in movement speed. Again, we need to have a more effective movement system when it comes to countering, and to do this, we need to have the ability to interrupt sidesteps, sways, and lunges. This is very important in my opinion when it comes to the striking in the next game. If all of this is done and done correctly, not only will the game be balanced when it comes to movement, but it will also be very realistic, and it will give players the freedom to get creative, create complex combinations, as well as counter effectively. So, I'm keeping my fingers crossed that the developers will implement some of these ideas, and if they don't, hey, no hard feelings, it's all good. There's really not much you can do about it, but just hope that they can take some of these ideas and put them in the game. But that's it for this one. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, Leave a comment and let me know what you think about this. You think the idea is gonna work? Do you think it sucks? Let me know in the comments, and I will see you guys pretty soon. Be safe. Thanks for watching.